Hey there, and welcome back. So, today I wanted to talk about the three important points that we should remember during our lifetime, that we should figure out what they will entail for us in particular. And they're about purpose, vision, and goals. Because ultimately, if we don't have either of the three, if one of them is lacking, then usually what ends up happening is that we either are sort of a dreamer in the sense that we have an idea of what we would like to do with our lives, but we're not really doing it, and therefore nothing is happening for us, or we're simply going to be stuck entirely and going nowhere. So you see, it's very important, first and foremost, to have a purpose in your life. Once you figure out what your purpose is, then it's important to build a vision concerning the execution of that purpose. So it gives you an idea, a clear picture in your mind of what you would be doing, what you would be involved in. That's a vision. And then taking that vision, you can break it down into smaller goals. Now, the breaking it down into smaller goals is actually something I think Henry Ford was quoted as saying, that if you want to make a big goal less intimidating, then turn it into small goals that you can act upon. And then ultimately the big goal will be realized, and the big goal for all of us will ultimately be living our purpose, executing that vision that we first established within our consciousness. So the quotation at the beginning of the video I thought was very interesting as well, where it's said by Bishop T.D. Jakes that if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion, for your passion will lead you right into your purpose. Now, this is exactly where most people get stuck. They are not really focused throughout their life in general on their passion to begin with. It's like sometimes people say they don't know what they want. They don't know what they want to do, where they want to go with their lives. They just know they want to make it better. Well, a good place to start is to honestly figure out for yourself what you're passionate about. Because ultimately doing the thing that you're passionate about is what's going to give your life meaning. It's what's going to make it fun to actually live. Because if that's lacking, then what is the purpose ultimately of your life? To just exist as this entity right now until you hit the grave. Sadly though, that is truly where many people live. Because they haven't taken the time to really figure out what they're passionate about and turn that into an actual purpose of their lives. That where you can say, this is what my life is going to be all about. This is what I'm all about in this current lifetime. This is what I'm meant to share with the world. You see how powerful that can be to figure out for yourself what your purpose is. So the first thing, again, what we want to do then is to figure out what we're passionate about. Do you know what you're passionate about? Ultimately, it's a huge question because it's going to determine the direction in which your life could flow. Now, the silly thing is, the struggle for most of us at first is that once we figure out what we're passionate about, we might have this strange idea in our minds where we're like, I could never make a living doing this. I could never do this full time. No, I gotta work. You gotta work a normal job that you might not entirely like, but at least it brings in the money. Well, that's how most people live. They honestly believe that. They're convinced that they cannot live their purpose, that they cannot live their dreams, that it's too hard for them. Well, the thing is here, the reason why that happens is because they haven't gone over the 3 steps clearly. First, know clearly what your purpose is, then build a vision, and then create smaller goals on which you can act that are allowing you to actually express this purpose of yours, this passion of yours. So when we talk about purpose, we might as well say we talk about passion. Passion, vision, and goals, you could say as well, therefore. So that's one of the steps that you want to execute, that you want to consider and work upon in order to go into a better direction with your life. For me personally, what I've been passionate about might change around. So sometimes you're going to find in certain periods of your life, you're very passionate about a particular thing. If you go along with it, you learn to express more and more of it automatically. So for me, for a while, it would have been that I had a purpose of wanting to be a music producer. I've been doing that for many years. However, as of late, I have not been really that active in producing any new music in particular, because you could say that my passions has shifted around a little bit as I grow older, where I'm like, at one point I thought it would be very inspirational and inspiring for people to just hear music that I could potentially make, that I was inspired to make, that I felt compelled to create and share with humanity. But ultimately, directly expressing ideas about consciousness started to feel more logical as I grew older, where I was like, I just have to say exactly to people the points that I've learned to consider for myself in order to make things happen, so that perhaps it becomes easier for them to make things happen for themselves. So once you figure out what you're passionate about, don't be intimidated right away. Don't be shocked. Don't feel like, oh, this is such a great purpose that I'm actually feeling and sensing and seeing within my consciousness. I know I would be passionate about doing this, and I want to do it on a particularly large scale. Don't be intimidated by anything, any of that kind, because that's where most people give up. They think that what they're passionate about has to become so huge that therefore there's also no point in pursuing it, because they already don't know how they could ever make that a reality. Again, remember, the third step would be goals. So if you know what you're passionate about, then you want to simply build a vision. And a vision is a clear mental picture in your mind of how you would like to express what you're passionate about. What sort of activities would you be involved in? If you can figure that out, if you can make that clear to yourself, then you can go to that third step and actually set goals that are in alignment with that vision. So in the case for me, for many years, as I had a purpose of being a musician, of inspiring people, or at least entertaining them somehow through music that I made, I would, after I had that purpose in my mind, build a vision of what kind of music would it be, for example, what genre. I figured that out for myself rapidly, because I knew what I was passionate about listening to, and therefore I also knew what I was passionate about wanting to create for myself. Then I built another part of that vision where I was like, how am I going to express this though? Through what sort of means and mediums am I going to let the world know, in that case, about my music? First of all, this is over 10 years ago by now. I would simply post my music online on different social media platforms at the time, and then invite people literally to have a listen. Now at first, this might be intimidating, because then you're really going to get yourself out there, and there's going to be people who are going to say, this is interesting music, or I like this, or this totally sucks. Well, you're going to have a mix of everything all the time with whatever you do in life. So you better get over that very rapidly and not be intimidated by it when it happens, when people might not really like what you're doing. That's not really a problem. If you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to ultimately find people that are going to relate and resonate with what you've been doing and creating. So for me, it became clearer and clearer. As I had that vision, I also started to think to myself, maybe I should become a DJ, or at least in my case, I was an electronic music producer, so it was all digitally made as well, with synthesizers, keyboards, everything through my PC, and then a DJ can bring that on a live show. So that became another part of my vision, that I should express what I've been creating through the activity of being a DJ in this sense. So my purpose took me to a greater vision. I started to see even more activities in my consciousness of what I could be involved in order to express my purpose, my passion in life. So I started to pursue DJing as well, for a little while at least, because the funny thing is, I quickly discovered that standing around throughout the entire night for like 8 hours perhaps was pretty exhausting. It wasn't really that fun after all. So ultimately, I took it a step back again and realized I just want to produce music, and I want to reach the world with it through the internet. So that's what I focused upon. That was all part of a vision, right? It started out with knowing what I'm passionate about. Then I built a vision on how I'm going to be sharing that with the world. And then as I had that vision in my mind, I had goals to act upon. So this step of goals means that you literally know, okay, I see in my mind this is how I want to execute what I'm passionate about. So now I'm going to set smaller goals that are in alignment with this vision, so I can actually literally grow and most of all express physically what my purpose is all about. Because if you haven't gotten these three elements in check, if one of the three isn't completely clear or properly set up for yourself and your consciousness, that's when people get stuck. That's really, it's so obvious, but at the same time it's not. Most people forget about this entirely or haven't ever heard about this process. But that's why they really get stuck, is that they either see their purpose in their mind as something so great it intimidates them and they feel like they can never achieve this, or they have this vision in their mind, they're dreaming about it, right? About great activities that they could do, but they don't really set goals that are in alignment with that vision so that they have something to act upon on a daily basis that allows them to express and grow closer to the realization of such a dream. So you can analyze for yourself, if you're feeling stuck in your life, which of these three areas are you not 100% following? Because if you are following it, you will grow. You will become wiser, you become better at what you're doing. You will be expanding yourself and your activities within your particular, activity in the world, throughout the world. I could say the same for my YouTube channel currently. It started out, again, as a purpose for my channel was to inspire people, to somehow help them out, to give them ideas that can help them in their lives. And then the vision happened. How am I going to express such a purpose? Well, one part is I was thinking for a little while I should give seminars then. I should go out there and give seminars. Then I was like, where are the people going to come from? I have no idea. I literally have no clue where they're going to come from, but I have a message that I want to share. So at first I dived a little into that, but then I also realized it can be a little expensive also to start to rent venues and stuff like that for a seminar that people don't know about who is the speaker and what his message is about. So it might be a little tricky for people to show up. That's where I got stuck for a little while for myself. But then I realized, what if I changed the vision around a little bit? Because again, the beautiful part about this day and age is that we have the internet, so you can reach people, literally millions of people around the globe just through the internet alone. And then eventually what I figured is that seminars could grow out of this online activity all over again if I wanted to, and if there was a demand for it, if people were truly interested in knowing about it. Then over the years I figured I could start considering it anyway, and then people might want to show up. I would have to worry less about having an empty venue, so to speak, where nobody shows up but I'm paying for it, while giving my lecture that I would then post online anyway for people to hopefully listen to. So you see, it just goes straight to the main point that will make it the easiest for me to execute my purpose in this case. So for me, it started out having a clear idea of what my YouTube channel would be about, then building a vision. Okay, what is that gonna mean? Well, I'm going to make videos. What are the videos going to be about? How they're gonna look? What are they gonna sound like? How is this whole thing going to be put together? Well, I have multiple options in my case again. Show yourself on camera. That's one way. I've done it for a while actually, just stand in front of the camera. Now I changed it around more to a narrative sort of version of sharing my message, or a podcast where I just talk into my microphone about these ideas, and I keep going on. And then people did start to show up. That's the interesting part. Because again, I didn't really start out as some known author or some great inspirational speaker already out there who could easily, ask his already existing audience to come, visit my YouTube channel, make it easier for me to build the audience. No, I had to start from scratch, but I simply had the vision in my mind of how I'm going to execute this purpose with my YouTube channel, and then I set goals. And the goals these days would mean thinking about videos that I really want to post that I think are interesting subjects, and I'm simply posting the video, to actually sit down and make the video. Now sometimes this is easier than other times. It comes down to this whole effect that we all experience at times throughout life. Sometimes you just feel motivated, perhaps extremely motivated and passionate about what you're doing, and other times you might have a little less exciting days where you're not as motivated. and therefore you're less inclined to actually take any action. It's a moment of rest for your soul, then, you could say. A good time to reflect on your purpose all over again. If you don't feel motivated, reflect on your purpose and vision and see if there's something wrong about it for now. Something needs to be changed, or you outgrew a certain activity or way of doing it. This happens all the time. Doesn't mean you have to give up on everything you do in life. You don't have to be intimidated by this activity when it occurs. You simply analyze where you're at and where you want to go. And then you're going to get back on track through your goals, to new, more effective goals, where things become more exciting and meaningful all over again through the execution of that vision, of that purpose of yours. So if you're really going to analyze carefully in your own life where you're at, then these three elements, these three ingredients of consciousness and activity will help you to truly expand in a greater and better direction with your life. Because the more you become consumed by your own purpose, the more clearer you make your vision in your mind, the more easier it becomes to take action from your present circumstances. You don't have to be rich in order to execute your dream. You don't have to be famous in order to do it. All these things, riches, fame, success, whatever it is that you're after, can come to you through the activities that you set and create by your particular goals. So this is one of those other points that people really have to understand, and where they get stuck is that they're intimidated by their own vision at times, and then they're like, I don't have the money, for example. I can't execute this goal because I don't have the money. What you then want to do is analyze, but what is it that you could do in order to express at least part of your dream, or to at least make people aware of what your purpose would be? Because if you lose track of that, and again, you're going to feel stuck. If you're just going to zoom in on an element that is currently not within your capabilities, physically speaking, then it becomes intimidating all over again. People make these traps for themselves inside their consciousness because they don't keep it open. They don't keep their minds open far enough in order to see bigger and better ways on how they could realize whatsoever goal and dream they may have. So without purpose, without vision, and without goals, well, people will perish. Isn't that what Solomon said in the Bible? Without vision, the people will perish. Without vision, your life will never really improve. You'll be able to enjoy life, probably, and hopefully. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff just because you could, and sort of, wouldn't be wasting your time, but at least spending all your activity on just entertaining yourself. That's possible. I mean, many people do that, and it's a way of life. You could do it yourself. But to also feel that you have been contributing to this world in one way or the other, you're going to have to use these three ingredients of consciousness and activity effectively in your own world in order to experience that you've truly been contributing in your own unique way to this world. Because that's why you have that purpose, that passion. It's all God-given. It's why you're here. It's why you were put on this planet, in order to express yourself uniquely to this world, to make your own unique impression on the world. And this impression doesn't have to mean that you have to reach millions of people necessarily in order to amount to anything. Don't make any of these mistakes either. Don't feel like you'll only be successful if you've reached millions of people, because then as long as you don't have the millions, they're going to feel unhappy. You know, when you're the true success, when you're truly successful in life, is when you are clear on what your purpose is, when you have a clear vision of what that purpose and passion is all about for you, and then when you have smaller goals that you consistently can act upon that allow you to express what you were passionate about all along. Because it's ultimately through the activity, first the building of the vision, becoming clear what you're passionate about, and then the physical activities of your life that will allow you to express this dream in time, space, reality. So while you're here physically speaking, you will automatically start to express yourself in a bigger and greater way. You're automatically leaving something behind, either in the awareness of other people that you come in contact with, or perhaps through the things you end up creating. Perhaps you want to create stuff like I'm doing, or and many other people that will live on even after you're gone. I mean, my videos, unless YouTube were to remove them, if I were to drop dead right now, they would live on. They're like creations that I made because I was interested and passionate about making them, and then I leave them behind to the world, and at the same time I got paid for it as well, which is a fun fact. I mean, when it comes down to money all over again, let me remind you, the more you just zoom in on your passion and truly have an open mind and about figuring out how you could instead of why you can't, well, then the money can ultimately flow to you as well through the activities that you're most passionate about, because there's always ways to make a living through what you're passionate about. In fact, to make a living doing what you're passionate about is the most fun way to live, because it feels like you're actually doing what you were meant to be doing all along. And it's no longer about just making the money to pay your rent and just having to go to a job that you might not particularly like. But that's where most people are stuck, as we said earlier. It's all about figuring out what you are passionate about and then dedicating pretty much all of your resources in order to execute that very purpose throughout your lifetime, or at least as long as you're passionate about it. Because I said passions can change depending on your age. As you grow older, you might become passionate about doing things in a different way or doing something entirely altogether. So this is an ongoing process as well. It's something you'll always have to keep considering all the way up until the grave, because otherwise you might get into a rut and you get stuck, or you're not really as passionate or excited or motivated to work on something because perhaps you grew out of it, etc. All these little elements, to keep adjusting yourself as your life goes on, but they should be part of this great bigger journey of existence, your physical life. They're part of this physical journey of yours, that you are worthy of achieving and realizing great things. And you can do that by understanding the 3 ingredients. Have a purpose, know what you're passionate about, build a clear vision of what you would be involved in if you were to be executing that purpose. What kind of activities would you be involved in? How would you be expressing that passion of yours? Make it clear in your mind. Get a clear vision. And then you can set particular smaller goals that are in alignment with that vision and with that purpose and passion. And then you'll see, if you start living like that every single day, more and more will start to happen for you that allows you to express and reach the world with what you were meant to do. And it's no joke. This really works. It has worked for me time and time and again. I know it works for other people, whether they're doing this consciously or unconsciously. Some people do all of this unconsciously, so they can't really entirely clearly explain to you what they've been doing when it comes down to how they're using their mind and the activities of their lives. They might just boil it down to, oh, you gotta work hard. Well, that's fine. You could say you gotta work hard. But I always figured it's better to understand really the dynamics of consciousness that are involved. And these are the dynamics. There's way more dynamics going on that could help us out, and that we're going to get into in future videos and podcasts. But for now, this is one of those elements that we really should keep in mind, especially as the end of this year comes along. At the start of 2022, we might as well do the same. We're going to build a purpose. At least, hopefully, we're already clear on that. Then we can build a vision on how we're going to be executing throughout that year. What sort of activities are we going to be involved in throughout 2022? And then we set goals and we act upon them throughout the year. As the months, the days go by, you're going to see within 1 year you'll have realized way more, most likely, than if you were just dreaming along and not really doing any of these elements properly, not having them set up properly in your minds. So give it a shot and see what happens to the quality of your life.